Hello once again, friends on YouTube. Welcome to OSS 94. This time only the high buy-in was, I guess you could say televised. Not really televised, but you know what I mean. So here we have the debut of Five Card Omaha, which is one of the things that America's Cardroom prides itself on, which I haven't actually played yet, but I just assume that it's the same as Omaha, but you have five cards, but I assume it's still two from your hand and three from the board, like in regular Omaha. I am more of an Omaha guy than I am a Hold'em guy, so I am excited to see one of these things play out. So I'm excited. I'm also dreading it because it's really, really hard to tell the outs when they get it all in an Omaha game. So adding a fifth card there, we're going from 6 combinations of 2 cards to 24 combinations of 2 cards. Because that's the one thing you got to realize. The first step to being good at Omaha is realizing that you aren't being dealt 4 cards, you're being dealt 6 combinations of 2. And in this case, you're being dealt 24 combinations of 2. You're not being dealt 5 cards. So, this will be somewhat of a learning experience. And as always, let us take a look at the overall board here. You can probably tell from the fact that there's only 12 places paid that this was not a particularly high attended event. And it was attended almost exclusively by Americans, it would seem, because out of the last 20 players, 16 of them were from the United States, which is a little surprising because Omaha tends to be more popular outside the United States. And you will also notice that this is a bounty tournament. It's progressive knockout, where the buy-in was $630 again. Thank you, Norton. The buy-in was $630, $30 for the rake, $300 goes into the direct prize pool, which is here in red, and then another $300 goes to everybody's bounty. And anytime you knock out a player, you earn half of their bounty directly, and then the other half of their bounty gets added on to you if somebody were to knock you out. I think that's the best I can possibly explain it because I've never played one of these tournaments before. So, with that out of the way, we only have 5 players, so that must mean that there was a double knockout to get us to our final table. Am I reading this correct? Do I see somebody with 11.1 million and nobody else has 2 million? I think I'm reading this correct. This is absolutely preposterous. We're 5-handed, and this guy has 75% of the chips in play? Something like that. I think if you add these guys together, you get about a third of that. Maybe a little bit more than that. It's more like mental math here. He's got about 71% of the chips in play, 5-handed, which seems absolutely impossible. But apparently that's what we're at here. This is probably going to be an extremely quick final table. So, let's see how quick it really is. B-Pad's 10. If you lose this game, it ain't no one's fault but yours. It's hard for me to assess the quality of a 5-card Omaha hand, but that just doesn't seem like that good of a hand. If you have 3 of one suit, that's not that big of a deal breaker in 5-card Omaha, I think. Well, we have trips for B-Pad's 10, plus the ace, which doesn't play right now. And I really don't know why Fatty Tuna is continuing to play here. I'm going to probably use the pause button a lot just to explain things out for Omaha. Fatty Tuna was calling basically on a wrap straight draw. A 4 would work because he has a 7-5 in the 4. 4 would work because the 7-5 gives him a straight. 5 works because 7-4 would give him a straight. 7 works, the 5-4 would give him a straight. And the 9 would work. Okay, I'm starting to see why he did that. The 9 would also work to give him a straight, so he had 4 chances to hit a straight. And that 10 actually gives him the best hand, amazingly enough, with the 3 10s. So the more I look at it, the more I realize that's a perfectly legitimate call. The question, of course, is why would he go for a straight when there's 3 hearts on the board? I feel like when there's 3 of one suit on the board, you have to give your opponent more credit for having a flush because there's just more of a chance for it. However, now they both have full houses. Fatty Tuna's 10's full, beating out B-Pads' 8's full. B-Pads, I think, has to pay this off. No, he's going to raise them all in. Fatty Tuna's got to call it. And we have a double up right off the bat for Fatty Tuna 86. Why are they the only 2 who are playing? Why are these 3 guys not being dealt any cards? This is bothering me. I assume it's just something to do with the robots themselves. So we have a bet from the pair and the straight draw. Now it's ended up with just 2 pair. Fatty Tuna has the nut flush. The ace high flush. He's got to bet it. B-Pads, though, ending up with just bottom 2 pair. Seems like a pretty easy fold, especially in 5 card Omaha. Yeah. There, now they're getting cards. And this guy just got dealt a straight. Sort of. Not really. He got dealt 24 combinations of 2 cards. He did not get dealt 5 cards. He did not get dealt a straight. No surprise there. Big raise from the chip leader. He's got pair of kings. One of them is suited, and there's also an ace and a 10 there. Now, I'm being facetious, of course, with, I don't know how to pronounce that name. I'm just going to go with the Brazilian. But being dealt 5 cards to a straight actually is pretty nice because there's a very strong chance that you're going to flop 2 pair. And even if you do get flop 2 pair, you know, you're still going to have a million straight draws. And boy, these guys are just going for it. Fatty Tuna got dealt 2 pairs. I don't love it because the only suited cards are the 8 and the 2. The Brazilian's going to fold it. Maybe these 2 are the only ones playing this game right now. Okay, so they're all in, so let's pause here. Because the Brazilian folded, the 8 of hearts actually plays here. But you cannot get a straight because you need to have another card that connects with the 8. He doesn't have that. He has the pair of aces. B-Pad's 10 has just a pair of kings right now, so he's actually behind. So, obviously, if a heart comes, he can't win. He's going to need a king or an... No, ace doesn't work. He's going to need a king, 7, because he does have a 7, or 10, or an 8 for a straight. King, 7, 10, 8. Knocks out Fatty Tuna. No heart, though. The 2 gives him trips, and Fatty Tuna, just like that, is a contender. Too Young, I'm sure, is waiting and praying for Fatty Tuna to finally get knocked out by B-Pads, but it's just not happening right now. Fatty Tuna showing some incredible resilience. B-Pads would probably be wise to stop messing around pre-flop, and sure enough, he's just going to limp in this time. Raising Canes has a very attractive hand. Pair with a lot of straight connecting cards. Sure enough, that flop is right up Raising Canes' alley. A million cards get him a straight. It's really hard to commentate on this. I might have made a mistake. Like, I understand the game of Omaha, and I play it better than I play Hold'em, but man, it's hard to keep track of all these cards. So B-Pads has an open-ended straight draw with a Jack-8. Of course, that wouldn't give him a full pot. That would only chop it with Raising Canes. Now, what neither B-Pads nor Raising Canes wants to see is a Jack, because that gives Fatty Tuna the nut straight. A club means that B-Pads takes it. He's the only one with a club draw. And Too Young has absolutely nothing. Raising Canes, I can't imagine, is going anywhere. Fatty Tuna, yeah, I think that's a sensible fold. All right, so Raising Canes has his straight with the Jack-7. B-Pads does not have a straight. It's a pretty nice bet. B pads. I probably would have folded. Oh, wait, no, he's got 2 pair and a flush draw. I didn't even realize that card gave him 2 pair. That also gave Raising Cane's a set, but more importantly, he has a straight, and he is running with it, and sure enough, 2 small pair, no way that's ever good in 5 Card Omaha. Oh, we have an avatar change by Too Young. So they can actually see them change their avatars in real time, too. Interesting. What are you doing, B-Pads? That hand sucks. You're never going to fold out the rest of the table in 5 Card Omaha. Too Young has a hand that might... with a stack that short, I think that's a good enough hand to go for it. Apparently you can fold everybody out. A pair of 9s, double suited, with a couple of high cards. I think he should have gone for it there. I mean, that hand is, I think, pretty clearly worse. And now you go for it. You never really want to get dealt pocket trips in Omaha. 5 Card Omaha, there's still a little bit of wiggle room if you get dealt pocket trips. What I want to see is a pocket full house, just for the lulz. Couple of queens, double suited for the Brazilian. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that name. I'm sorry. Actually, I got 3 double suited hands here. B-pads. I like that he's slowing down. Fatty Tuna comes up big yet again with the ace-high diamonds. The Brazilian has the second nut flush. And this might be bye-bye Brazil, because I can't see him getting away from this, considering the stack sizes around the table. Maybe he can. I would be very impressed. If the board pairs, then this is going to get real interesting. We have a bet and a raise. I can't imagine the Brazilian will... Yeah, they're not going to just go for it all right here. But I don't think he's going anywhere either. Fatty Tuna, I assume, is sizing up a value bet. 210,000 or so. Yeah, somewhere around that region where it can entice the Brazilian to play, and also it means that he can bet him all in on the river. That card is such a brick. I think he seems to know what's up. Question is, can he actually summon the discipline to get away from it? He can! What a fold! Maybe he was looking for a chance to redraw to something. Again, if the board had paired, or even if a queen came, that would have been really fun. But that is a heck of a fold there with the second nut flush against the nut flush. He just seemed to know what was up. Fatty Tuna was never raising there without a flush. Amazing laydown. And he will continue to fight on. I do not know how ICM is considered in a progressive knockout tournament. Because I have played bounty tournaments on, Replay Poker, the fake money website. I've never played a progressive knockout tournament, which is the standard for real money websites. So I don't know how ICM is worked out there. I honestly do not. I am an amateur. Okay, so Raising Cane's likes it. Nut flush draw. The Brazilian has none of this, really. He should fold. B-pads doesn't have a lot of it, but he's got a couple of gut shots at least. And then Too Young has an open-ender, but not much else. Raising Cane's gets exactly what he wants. That is the absolute perfect card for Raising Cane's, as B-pads hits the straight and he hits the flush. Maybe it's not his own damn fault. Maybe he's just getting really unlucky here if he loses. Raising Cane's has to value about this. The way the hand has gone down, you can be pretty confident that the ace-high flush is good. And B-pads, I don't think is going anywhere with that straight. Wow, that's a great fold. Didn't even think about it. So he's not letting this bad start to the final table get to him. He's not letting the big stack get to his head. He is making solid decisions. He's got Pair of jacks, not a ton else though, and he's hoping everybody else folds. Too Young has been playing very tight. And judging by that small knockout bounty, he's been playing tight the whole way. Raising Cane's I'm a little bit surprised is so small of a knockout. I don't know if you guys can see the flash text up there. All right. Semi-connecting hand for B-pads. Too Young with a pair and a suited ace. Come on, dude. You gotta put it in at some point. If you have a pair and a suited ace, that's good for your stack. Come on. I'm surprised at the fold there, too. I guess, like I said, you get a sense of how tight they're playing based on the bounties. Now, the Brazilian has an excellent hand here. Suited queen, suited ace, and they're paired. The queens are. Just a call, and he should be able to get away from this. He flopped virtually nothing. Or he's going to keep going. If you're going to just call that pre-flop, and that's all you get on the flop, a gut shot to the ace-high straight, I think you might as well save the rest of your money, dude. B-Pad's having a terrible time here. Too Young having a terrible time because clearly he's trying to fold up the money ladder. And just not happening. Everybody's doubling up through B-Pads. Too Young finally going for it, again with a hand that I would imagine plays worse than the hands that he's been rejecting. But again, I'm used to 4 cards, not 5. He's getting his raises through. I mean, obviously, when you play that tight, your raises get more respect, so that's natural. That's a nice hand. There you go. B-pads with 2 pair, I'm sure will take him up on that, though. These guys should fold. But B-pad should be going for it here. 2 pair. Yeah, here we go. All right. I just have to keep pressing the pause button. There's just so many cards to look at here. All right, so Too Young is still behind, of course, because he paired the 8, but there's a pocket queens there for B-pads. B-pads also has a straight draw with the 6-7. Too Young does not have a straight draw or flush draw. Runner clubs would work, but the hearts don't matter. Nobody has a heart draw, so moving on. Too Young is behind. All right, 9 comes. B-pads has hit the straight. Too Young is drawing to a jack and a jack only. He just has a pair of 8s, so he can't make a full house. He just needs a jack for a straight. Nope. B-pads is the winner of that hand. Too Young finishes in 5th place. Tried to get something going, tried to fold his way up the money ladder, then tried to make something happen, but just did not work. $2,226 for Too Young. And now we are 4-handed. B-Pads' bounty is just enormous. Fatty Tuna, really without much of a hand, is going to min-raise? I feel like either you would raise pot to drive everybody out or just fold it. If we were doing 5-card Omaha high-low, that would be an excellent hand, which I'm sure is a thing. Nobody hit much. 7-4 gives Fatty Tuna a straight draw. That card gives B-pads actually they're not straight. Raising Canes with a king-high flush draw. But I agree with the fold there. If they're betting pot and all you have is a king-high flush draw, not that much to go off of. Fatty Tuna has an ace-high flush draw. Plus, of course, he still has a chance to chop it. Theoretically, he doesn't really have a chance to chop it. Nice, disciplined fold. Actually, they all had spades. So there's a very, very low chance that river card would have been a spade. Fatty Tuna with pair of 9s, but not a whole lot else going on. The one thing about 5-card Omaha is that you're guaranteed to have suited cards. You can't possibly have a rainbow hand. So that's one interesting thing about it. D-pads with not a great hand, honestly. but that should get through. I mean, he is still the tyrant of this table, but he is far more reachable than he was at the start of the tournament, or the start of the final table, rather. Gonna keep raising. Raising Cane's going nowhere with a pair of kings, pair of fives, double suited. Well, the Brazilian could have played that. Fatty Tuna, maybe. He's gonna go for it. And he is gonna come up big with trip nines and a redraw to an up and down straight, plus the 4. If that's any consideration. At least, well, it means that it's unlikely that somebody else has trip 4s at least. B-Pads, though, is going nowhere with straight draws and a nut flush draw of his own. Raising Cane's has a... Honestly, he pretty much whiffed that flop. Drawing to the 5-3 flush is pretty useless. B-Pads is not going anywhere. Oh, he's going to raise. Raising Cane's is definitely going to fold this. Yeah, he has nothing. Fatty Tuna has, at the moment, the nuts. He's probably going to raise all in. B-Pads is going to call, and this is a potential lead change right here. Fatty Tuna hits the straight on the turn. B-Pads is left just drawing to that flush. If B-Pads misses the flush, then Fatty Tuna is the new chip leader. It does not come. Fatty Tuna 86, has doubled up for the 3rd time through B-Pads and is now in the lead just 14 minutes into the final table. B-Pads down 7 million since the final table began. No one else had 2 million when this final table began, and in less than 15 minutes, look where we are now. Boy, you gotta love Omaha. Even this mutated form of it. Alright, they both pretty much whiffed on this flop. They both just have top pair. Well, the Brazilian has a pair of aces, so he's ahead. But as far as connecting with the board, they both just have top pair, top kicker. Okay, there's a 3rd heart. Nobody's got a straight. The Brazilian has 2 pair now, but I don't think he likes it a lot. If he's playing, he's going to need to see another jack or an 8 to feel comfortable. I don't blame him for folding there. Good, aggressive play by B-Pads representing the flush or the straight there. When you got 2 pair, that you can never be all that comfortable that you're ahead in Omaha. Fatty Tuna. Oh, excuse me. B-Pads. Not with a great hand, but he's got some potential. And the potential comes through with top 2 pair. He likes it. I would too. Raising Cane's has just a pair of 5s and a gut shot. I would not have called that. Raising Cane's now has 2 pair, but it's inferior. No upside to betting here. And, well, would you look at that? The straight comes through. Unfortunately for Raising Cane's, so does B-Pads, and he has the higher straight. And he just checks. That's brilliant. That's a brilliant check by B-Pads. That, or he just straight up doesn't even realize he has a straight now. But the 8-6 is the nuts, and he is going to raise. So Raising Cane's fell for the bait. He made the bet, and now he's got to face a bet for most of his remaining chips. He has a straight, but he's up against the best straight. Can he get away from it? Or does he think B-Pads is just bowling him around? Absolutely, by all means, take your time, sir. He is going to make the call. B-Pads has been very, very loose. I can't say that I blame him for calling that, but he guessed wrong on this occasion, and he is now extremely short-stacked. B-Pads really needed that pot for his self-confidence, I imagine. And he's got a pair of aces double suited. Oh, life is good all of a sudden. Again, Raising Cane's has nothing. He's got to fold that. The Brazilian, that's playable. I don't know how ICM works in a PKO tournament, but I imagine ICM is going through his head now with Raising Cane so short. Oh, second nut flush versus nut flush. This hand is all but over already. The Brazilian is, let's see, what's it going to need to win this hand? Okay, now he's drawing dead because he did not hit 2 pair. B-Pad's trying to milk him for everything that he can. He could be worried about a straight flush, and Brazilian does in fact have the King of Hearts, but not the Jack of Hearts. I don't think B-Pad's worried about straight flush. I mean, if you're scared of straight flushes, then you should not be playing poker. Now, the Brazilian made an excellent laydown earlier at the final table in this exact same situation. Can he make it again? Because B-Pads is definitely going to go for the all-in here. And not this time for the Brazilian. He is going to go with the second nut flush, but unfortunately, just not good enough. That hand was just a setup for failure. Can't blame him either. B-Pads with yet another bounty. And our Brazilian friend with $3,021. B-Pads has so many bounties. If he doesn't win, then whoever knocks him out is going to be sleeping real well tonight. I'll tell you that. A Fatty Tuna here with, honestly, not as good of a hand as it might look. His only straight card is a queen, and he's not going to want it to be a heart. Yeah, I think that's a good fold. Raising Canes must be absolutely thrilled to take third place now. And, oh, he's just not getting cards right now. It's going to look, you know, the optics are pretty bad between him and the other 2 players. They're like, come on, dude. Stick it in. You have to. You're so short. But he's just not getting any cards. There you go. Now he's going to play. He's going to play against whoever raises, because whoever wants to play this hand is pretty much guaranteed to be pot committed with that stack. B-Pads, don't know why he called that. Raising Kings has to go for it here. Double suited kings with an ace. Easy all in. Mighty Tuna, I think has just enough to play. B-Pads, don't know why he's playing this hand. That's a terrible looking hand, and he flopped absolutely nothing. Fatty Tuna with quite a few draws, plus the 2 pair. He's going to bet. I'm too late on the pause button, I'm sorry, but I'm sure you can see. Fatty Tuna gets the W. Raising Cane's out in 3rd place. Just could not get anything going. But he managed to ladder up, so... I mean, when you can't get anything going, the least you can do is ladder up. Or the most you can do is ladder up, rather. So $4,452 for him. Somebody other than B-Pads gets a knockout, and these two are going to start heads up with identical stacks. And you can see how long this is going to go on for. So this ought to be very interesting. B-Pads flops trips. Fatty Tuna has absolutely nothing. Okay, the 3 hit him, but nobody cares. Even if he hits another 3, he's drawing dead. Fatty Tuna is in full bluff mode here. And now he's got a card he can really represent. But he chooses not to, and the set of 5s works for B-Pads. This could take an eternity. I mean, look at the blinds. 25K, 50K, and look at their stacks. And the final table is bound to shake out somewhat like this, with B-Pads coming in with such a ridiculous lead. And now we have basically the exact same hand, but in reverse. With Fatty Tuna flopping the trips, B-Pads flopping air. And it looks like B-Pads recognizes that the bluffs didn't work against him, so why should he try it himself? That's a card he can't represent all that well. I think Fatty Tuna's going to make this call. He does. I think Fatty Tuna could have made that bluff work on the river on that last hand, because that was a card he could have represented. That one, not so much. I don't think anybody's going to fold pre-flop in 5 Card Omaha. There's just so much potential that can happen. I say that, and then there's this flop, which neither player hit. Yeah. Easy pickup for B-Pads. So yeah, the prize pool is now identical for each player. The winner gets the added bonus of getting all the bounties. That's what they're playing for. And that is a lovely flop for B-Pads. Top two, actually 3 pair. So 3 chances to hit a full house. However, there is a straight on the horizon for Fatty Tuna. And no raise from B-Pads. I think he realizes that 3 pair is nice, but he's not going to want to get crazy with it until he hits a full house. Fatty Tuna still has the nuts, still is going to bet it. B-Pads, I imagine if they keep going, yeah. And everything bricks out. He just has the 2 pair of queens and jacks. Fatty Tuna's been betting the whole way, and he still has the nuts. So he can go for value here. He's going to bet fairly large. At a full table, this is an easy fold. Heads up, maybe not. And he is going to pay it off with top 2 pair. Excellent value plays by Fatty Tuna. Milked him for everything that he could. Bet the perfect amount each street. And now he has a 2-1 chip lead over B-Pads, who has 5 pinochle cards in his hand. Fatty Tuna has air. Okay, he has a straight draw to a 5, but that's it. B-Pads, little skittish now, can't really blame him. The case 10 peels off on the turn. It's the 10 of hearts. Fatty Tuna has literally just a pair of 10s. He's drawing to that 5. B-Pads has 3 10s, but there's a heart out there. I don't think he's going to raise this. Now he's fine. Now he's got a full house. I assume that I'm calling this game correctly because everything that I'm assuming about 5 Card Omaha is true. That there's 2 cards from the hand and 3 from the board. Because otherwise, it wouldn't be Omaha, would it? You can't call a game Omaha and say, actually, 3 cards from the hand and 2 from the board is fine too. It wouldn't be Omaha, so. Yeah, you'd have to call it something else. This is interesting. Nobody has anything here. Alrighty. Pair of 8s for each player. Fatty Tuna with the better kicker. 8-5 for B-Pads, 2 pair. Probably just gonna check it. No, he's gonna bet it. The hand's been playing very slowly, so he is gonna assume that the 2 pair is good. Fatty Tuna only has the pair of 9s to fall back on, which is air. I think he's thinking of trying to bluff it, but no, doesn't do it. Bluff might have worked, but again, there's not much to represent there. B-Pads again with 2 small pair. It's gonna block. Wow. I didn't think we'd see any walks. 4 hearts. But a pair of queens. Just enough potential there to call the raise. No potential comes through, but B-Pads didn't get much on that flop either. Got a straight draw. But only 2 ways. That 7 does not work. But he will represent it. You can absolutely do that in 5 Card Omaha. Fatty Tuna left with just a pair of queens and not much hope of improving the hand. I stand corrected. He's got trips. And he doesn't bet him. Which I guess I understand, because B-Pads was representing a straight on the turn. So, in case he has it, your 3 queens still aren't good enough. Oh, wow. Yeah, that is a walkable hand. Very connected hand for Fatty Tuna. Big cards for B-Pads, at least 3 big cards. Mixed bag flop for Fatty Tuna. He's got a small flush draw, but it's a paired board. Now it's a double paired board. I don't think anyone's thinking about flushes now. B-Pads, does he want to represent? Yes, he does. Fatty Tuna probably has to fold already. Nope, he's going to call it. Now the board has a full house. B-Pads has 3-3-3 King. Fatty Tuna has 3-3-3 6-6. The 10s do not play, of course. It's Omaha. And that's actually a pretty good fold, all things considered, because even if in that case he was up against a 10, the 10 still isn't better than 3-3-3 6-6. It would be 10-10-10, like ace 3, something like that, because you can't really make a full house with just the 10 in Omaha because you're only using like one card from your hand to connect to the board. So that is actually a pretty good laydown. Fatty Tuna has a good flush draw and a very good backdoor draw. Backdoors don't come. You could backdoor his way into a wheel with a 3. Either player has to love this board, but 3 doesn't come. Fatty Tuna has 4-2 for 2-pair. B-Pads has actually 6-3 for a straight, which would be the nuts. Talk about backing into a monster. I didn't even see that, and he's got the nuts. Fatty Tuna with a... Those are 2 nice hands. They both have pocket 9s, so nobody's gonna make trip 9s. And nobody's got much of anything here that might well just get the job done right here. Nope. It's very interesting to see how B-Pads changes it up now that he's heads up with somebody instead of just blasting away at the rest of the table. Now he gets out of it on the turn. B-Pads with nothing, but he's going to raise this time. Fatty Tuna probably likes to look at that flop. Open-ended straight draw. B-Pads has nothing. The 8 does not work for anybody. Well, it works for B-Pads to pair the 8, which is the best hand right now, but I don't think he can possibly think that. Fatty Tuna, if he bets again, should get the job done. Yep, nicely done by Fatty Tuna. Fatty Tuna's acting like he's the guy who was chip leader the whole way. I can easily see why this is actually progressing fairly quickly, despite the blinds being so small in comparison to the stacks. The potential on all these Omaha hands is just enormous. So they're both playing it fairly quickly. Although now that it is heads up, they're reining it in a bit. The reason why it's a 2-1 chip lead is mostly because of just one really big hand. Obviously, once you get down to heads up, the potential for coolers is very, very small. At a full-handed table, you know, very often you'll see 4 people see the flop because there's so much potential in every hand. And when there's 4 people seeing a flop, there's a very good chance that 2 of them will both flop monster hands. So there's going to be coolers there. When it's heads up, it might slow down quite a bit. So it's going quickly, but at the same time, not. If that makes any sense. Gotta have the mouse over that pause button in case anything big happens. I have scheduled a regular Omaha game as well to commentate over. The Fatty Tuna with a very attractive hand there. This time B-Pads doesn't have any 9s. And might just say no to it. Nah, he's going to go for it. He's got two flush draws. And unfortunately for B-Pads, the flush draw he didn't want is the one that he's got. Because those clubs are less than the clubs that he's up against. Now, Fatty Tuna bets small enough to keep him in it. He's got to love that flop. He's got clubs and the jack for a straight. Neither player can like that 10, though. And another 10, which Fatty Tuna probably isn't complaining about because he does have the pocket 9s. Is he going to bet them for value, though? No. There's always a decent chance that somebody else has a larger pocket pair in 5 card Omaha. So I like to check back there. And of course, he could have just been hiding a 10 the whole time. For quads. Fatty Tuna has the lead on this hand with a pair of aces and the gut shot to a ace high straight. Does not like that card, though. Any king beats him now. B-Pads bet the flop for some reason. He's completely bluffing at this point if he keeps going. No, he's going to check again. And that 6 doesn't help anybody. The hand is still ace, ace, king, king, queen for Fatty Tuna. B-pads with just the pair of 8s. No, not gonna work. Even if he could use every card from his hand, the best hand he could make is King, King, 8, 8, Ace. Ooh, they each have trip 6s, Fatty Tuna with the Ace, B-pads with the King. B-pads is going to need to pair another one of his cards. And he's going to raise. Dangerous move from him. That 5, of course, brings some straight possibilities. Nobody has the straight yet, but an 8 or a 3 would work for B-pads. Instead, it's a queen, and Fatty Tuna hits the full house. B-pad's just left with 6s and a king kicker. Fatty Tuna's got to go for value. Fatty Tuna pulling away here. No way he folds this. Does the value bet work? It works really well. Raise from B-pads. Probably not a raise with the 6 queen, but does call the full house. B-pads with a bad misread. Now has less than 3 million left. Got a lot of diamonds in his hand now. Oh, wow. But he's got the set of 3s against a flush from Fatty Tuna. He just cannot win right now. Bottom side against a flush. B-pads. Okay, now that 10 helps him out because that's more potential for a really good full house redraw. He's got the 3 3s. If the river card is a 5, that gives him 3s full of 5s. But if it's a queen or a 10, it gives him queens full of 10s or 10s full of queens. So he's got to like that board. And he bets pot. Fatty Tuna with a small flush is not going to raise, I don't think, but he's not going to go anywhere. And the river card is an ace of clubs. B-pads is empty. And will he empty the clip here? He does. He's going to go all in. Fatty Tuna, with one call here, can win this game with the 8 high flush. I'm not even sure if B-pads is sort of bluffing here or betting for value. I imagine it's for value, but... Oh, he's going to fold the flush! B-pads picks up 1,000,000 chips, whether he even knows he was bluffing or not, by forcing out the small flush. And we are going to continue playing here. Trip 7s, quick pot for Fatty Tuna here. B-pads and Fatty Tuna both have pairs now, and that's all they've got. B-pads representing an 8, Fatty Tuna. Boy, if he sees this, he's going to be kicking himself. Unless, of course, he wins, in which case it doesn't matter. He still has a big lead. Just didn't want to double his opponent up. Oh! B-pads hits a flush. Runner. He's going to go for a little bit of value. Fatty Tuna with just a pair of queens is going to make a good fold there. Any 2 beats him. Any 8 beats him. Just wasn't worth it. Raise from Fatty Tuna with the pair of 8s and semi-connected cards. Ooh, nice flop for Fatty Tuna. 2 pair plus a straight draw to a 6. B-pads has a 6, and now he doesn't. He has no cards. They're playing very quickly, too. I have to applaud them for playing quickly despite having 5 cards to look at. You know, there's a lot to process and analyze in this, but if they determine quickly what to do, they just fold. Or they just call, you know. There's not been nearly as much tanking as I would have anticipated. Fatty Tuna has 4 spades here, which I assume is why he's tanking here. The likelihood of actually hitting the flush is rather low, and he's going to raise. B-pads has an up and down straight draw, and he's going to keep going, and now he's got 3 3s. With a king kicker. Fatty Tuna, with a paired board, is going to make a blocker bet there. even if he hits the flush, he can't be too comfortable about it. And that's a min raise of the blocker bet. And Fatty Tuna has none of that. He's like, okay, bro, I believe you. That move is way too trappy. I'm just going to let you have it. Pocket trips for B-pads. That's never a good thing in an Omaha. And should be an easy fold, theoretically. Okay! I don't know what's going on anymore. Fatty Tuna has 3 4s, so he's not going anywhere. B-pads, obviously, can only hit one more 8. That's all. There's only one 8 left in the deck. Now he gives up. I guess that raise was just one bluff, and if it didn't work, forget it. Very connected hand for B-pads. Fatty Tuna with a bunch of garbage. But the bunch of garbage comes out pretty darn good in that flop. Wow. He's got a straight with a redraw to a flush. And now that straight even improves a little bit with the 7. B-pads has air. He's waiting for B-pads to bluff again. Which, given what we've seen, is a smart thing to do. Yep, it works. Just a call, just in case he was packing a 9-7 in there. But well played by Fatty Tuna. He knows that B-pads is willing to bluff at it. Man, everything coming at Fatty Tuna right now. Trips. What's the added insurance of having the 5 there? Of course, B-pads does have outs with the 8-7. But he better start hitting these outs because he doesn't have a whole lot of time left, it seems. There's a 9 for B-pads. He still has a lot of danger to dodge, of course. That is clean. The 10-7 actually plays now for B-pads. He's not going to bet it, though, just in case there's 2 spades in Fatty Tuna's hand. Because remember, as I said, with 5 cards, you're guaranteed to have suited cards. So very good chance that 2 of those suited cards are spades. So I can't blame him for soft playing the straight. B-pads has nothing. Fatty Tuna doesn't have a whole lot either. Who wants to represent this? I had a feeling B-pads might jump for it there, but it's fair to mix it up. I was going to go for it here. Fatty Tuna with a nice call. Just the pair of jacks. I think B-pads went for it one street too late. Fatty Tuna with nice connected cards there. I would have raised with that hand. But he's going to go ahead and let B-pads raise for him. Nice flop for Fatty Tuna. King-high flush draw and a wheel draw. Again, B-pads just comes up with nothing. That's a really good card for B-pads, though. The 8-10 now plays... Actually, 8-10 and the Queen-10. He's got a lot of straight outs. That's not one of them, though. Fatty Tuna with aces and 3s. I think he's going to make this call. Yep. Bottom 2 pair is one thing, but aces up is pretty strong. At least strong enough to call one bet. B-pads is in trouble. He's going to want to see a jack on this board, I'm sure. Instead, another set for Fatty Tuna. He's just hitting all of them. Another set and a straight draw to boot. There's the jack. Now we have a set over set. If the river's a brick, this pot could get really big. It might get really big now. Fatty Tuna does have a minor flush draw. And, of course, that straight draw. Oh, he's going to raise now. We're going to get it in now, aren't we? I feel like B-pad just has to go with it. He might just call. No, he's going to go for it all in. And I didn't even have time to press the pause button. To let you know what he needed. However, that 2 does not give Fatty Tuna the straight because all of his cards counterfeit that. The jacks hold for B-pads 10 to double up to 6.9 million. He is now playing against a 9 million stack for Fatty Tuna. Swallowing a lot of air. Sorry. Another set for Fatty Tuna. But no straight draw this time. This time it's only B pads with the straight draw. And he's going to raise with it. Fatty Tuna's not going anywhere. He's raising back. B pads ought to play this carefully. He's just going to call. He's got 2 pair now. 5 or 9 works. That pot seems like it should be bigger than that. Just to check. The 7 does not help anyone. Actually, it does. Fatty Tuna has the 8-6 for a straight. It's not the nut straight. 10-8 beats him, but he's probably going to bet this. Yeah. Beep has with just the 9-5 for the 2 pair. Will make the hero call, but it comes up empty. Fatty Tuna once again pulling away. Hitting the straight on the river. Let me guess, Jack. Nope. For once, no set for Fatty Tuna. Came up fairly empty, actually. Big straight draw for B-pads. A lot of cards can fill it for him. He doesn't want a spade, though. Fatty Tuna's got 2 spades. B-pads could also win with, let's see, a 10, a queen, a 4 even. Like, so 4 gives him a straight, yeah. Oh, or he can win by forcing a fold. Trips. Oh, there goes the case 5. So B-pads does actually... That's like the best flop he could have possibly asked for that hand. Because he has 3 5s, plus an up and down straight draw. Well, now he probably does not like it. B-pad, or Fatty Tuna does have the straight now. But he's got a call. And things are getting worse and worse for B-pads. Although Fatty Tuna might just check this back now. So pocket trips aren't completely a deal breaker in 5 card Omaha. But they're still pretty bad. Ooh, B-pads flops a little bit of everything here. 2 pair, flush draw, up and down straight draw. Little anticlimactic, though. Two pair, and a connected card there, too. That's a nice hand. Blinds are up again, obviously. Fatty Tuna comes up completely empty. That's a lot closer to B-pads wheelhouse, but I was going to go for the raise. Yep, good job. So once again, closing the gap a bit. Limp, raise, and, I mean, B-pads doesn't have much. Fatty Tuna probably likes that flop, top 2 pair. It's a half pot bet. B-pads just folds. Yep. Fatty Tuna it's not raised. Fatty Tuna with a pretty good flop. Wraparound straight draw. But flush outs for B-pads, plus the queen and the 6. B-pads has this hand locked up with queens full. Fatty Tuna with just too good of a straight draw to pass up on. And he hits the 10-9 for the straight, but it's going to come up short. B-pads with a pot-sized bet. Fatty Tuna is probably going to pay it off. Yep. Nice pot for B-pads. That's another thing about, you know, about heads up at these relatively small blinds. Even if, when you bet pot, there's a very low chance that your opponent's going to raise on the river. Unless he's got the absolute joints. B-pads with a great card there. Nobody has a 4. Fatty Tuna is going to bet, but B-pads, I'm sure, is not going to go away too quietly yet. He hits the ace. Doesn't help him a lot, but it is good enough. Goes check, check. Three clubs. Pretty connected, though. I like that hand. Fatty Tuna, I like that hand, too. Ace, queen, and the 6. So he's got 3 pair once again. B-pads. Fatty Tuna really only has just that pocket pair of tens and the straight draw to fall back on. Gonna bet, but B-Pads is going nowhere. He might even raise this. He does. Fatty Tuna should fold now. Yep. The gap really closing now. Pair of queens and a lot of diamonds. 2-6-2. Nobody could possibly hit that. I mean, B-Pads has the 6, but it's not even playing right now. Easy. Fatty Tuna with a much better starting hand in this case. But B-Pads does have 2 pair. Uh-oh. Full house for Fatty Tuna. And his opponent's betting into him. Life is good for Fatty Tuna. He does have the bottom full house, to be fair. But heads up, this is possibly a raising hand. He's just gonna call. B-Pads with just the queen jack. Queen, queen, jack, jack, ace is his hand. Fatty Tuna with full house. It's still bottom full house. But he is going to correctly lead out and hope that B-Pads has just like a regular 6. Or a king 10, perhaps, for a straight. But he makes a good laydown there. B-Pads with an okay hand. Fatty Tuna, I like that hand better. Fatty Tuna with queen 8 gets the best of that flop. The 7 comes out for B-Pads to have an open-ended straight draw. Nobody has diamonds. It's going to get rid of the open-ended straight draw, though. Which is probably smart, because if he had a 10 and a 9, then he's drawing dead anyway, so that's a smart laydown. 10-8 for Fatty Tuna, and he continues to crush these flops. Doesn't even need that Jack 9. He's going to lead out there, which does seem like a bit of a mistake because he's got the Jack and the 9 as well. So, the fact that he just completely destroys that flop means that B-Pads probably doesn't have any piece of that. Oh, here we go. Suited ace. More suited cards there. But a pair of aces, double suited, is absolutely a re-raise hand. And, boy, nut flush draw and a wheel draw. That's an excellent flop. B-Pads really should fold this. Okay. But the absolute gin card comes through for B-Pads. Unfortunately, it's a spade. B-Pads has the nut straight, but it's no good. He's drawing dead. Fatty Tuna with the nut flush, and a redraw to even a straight flush. And he's just going to call it, and he still has the nuts. That's a nice slow play by Fatty Tuna, and he's going to check again. That is a huge pot. He was hoping to trap B-Pads into betting again, but he's smart enough to not go for the all-in there. But either way, a huge momentum swing. Fatty Tuna has to feel like he's got this all but locked away. And look at that flop for Fatty Tuna. Ace, queen, and the 4. And seems like he's learning. Just call it, because he's completely crushed that flop. He just let B-Pads keep betting. Now, B-Pads actually happens to have the nut flush draw here. Now he's going to go for the all-in. And the 7 gives B-Pads a straight to double up, and we are still going here. Again, I couldn't quite pause that in time. I need to be better at that. 9-6 Jack, 3 pair again for B-Pads. He's really good at flopping 3 pair. Open-ended straight draw for Fatty Tuna. Nobody has hearts. Queen. Not the open-ended straight that he was looking for. So B-Pad's still in good shape here. 8, also not the open-ended straight he was looking for. B-Pads has 4 pair. No bonus points, though. Fatty Tuna, that's a good bet. He might actually fold the 4 pair here. He doesn't even have the top pair. He just has Jack 9, and nice bet. Nice bet. Uh-oh. Raising War. Alright, so they both flop spades. B-Pads has the pair of tens in the hole. Fatty Tuna has the 4. They both hit a flush. B-Pads has very strong potential to win a pretty big pot here. It goes check, check there. The 4, though, will complicate things. The flushes are not bulletproof. Fatty Tuna has a 4, but does not have any other card to go with it, so he's left with just the 7 high flush. But he will bet it. B-Pads, I'm sure, will just call. And we're dead even again. Never over until it's over, especially in Omaha. Fatty Tuna's going to love that hand. Yeah. Smart to just limp and then call the raise. Fatty Tuna has an okay flop. B-Pad's whiffed, so that's an easy win for him. Ugly hand. Pretty hand. No raise, though. Well, the 10-5 is working for Fatty Tuna. The 10-5 is really working for Fatty Tuna. He's probably going to bet and hope that B-Pads has clubs. He does not, though. He's not drawing dead, though. The jack works. That's not a jack, though. Fatty Tuna's got to bet again. He's got a pretty strong full house. But, yeah. Just a pair of jacks, that's not good enough. Queens versus aces. Not a ton to go with them, but... And, boy, that flop is nothing to go with them. Oh, wait. Actually, my bad. B-Pads had another draw to the straight, exactly the way he did when he doubled up. B-Pads has the nuts straight. Probably going to raise here to force... I would have raised there to force the spade draw out, and as it turns out, Fatty Tuna has 10s full of 2s. B-Pads has lost this hand. And he is going to bet. Fatty Tuna might raise, might just call. He's going to raise. B-Pads probably will manage to fold this. Fatty Tuna's targeting like 3-3 or 5-5. Which would be worse full houses. B-Pads is thinking about it, though. This is heads up, after all. Weird things happen when you're heads up. They've been very good about not using their time bank, so by all means, go for it here. And he does make the hero call with the straight, but his fears have been confirmed. Fatty Tuna wins that huge pot. And once again, feels like he's got this title, if not in his back pocket, at least he's got a hand on it. B-Pads is the one who had the title in his back pocket when this final table started. Fatty Tuna now has about as many chips as B-Pads had at the start of the final table. Fatty Tuna with not much. He's got top pair. B-Pads. It's a great card on the turn. Flush with a redraw to a straight flush even. 5 of spades comes on. So Fatty Tuna pretty much just bluffing. Unless I'm missing something. Well, Fatty Tuna has the wheel now, but it's no good. Just to check, just in case there's, more spades. As it turns out, he probably could have gotten money from the wheel. Lines are up to 50,000, 100,000 now. And 3 kings for B-Pads. Fatty Tuna is left with just the pocket queens. And nothing to really go with them, so... Probably a pretty easy fold there. The 3s are irrelevant. B-Pads can probably bet with comfort. Fatty Tuna might just call just for the heck of it. 2, 3, 9, 4, 4. Ugly. Queens. Double suited. But, you know, not very connected, so I agree with the no raise there. Both these guys completely whiffed. Fatty Tuna's probably just going to fold this. Nope, he's going to call. The persistence pays off. That's 3 queens for Fatty Tuna. Make that queens full for Fatty Tuna. That was a good call, technically. He's still the best hand. So, you know, let's not just write him up as being reckless. That call was the right move. B-pads with trip 9s, actually. So, yeah, he has to call that. Well, it's hard to stay focused and look at all these cards. I feel like I've done a pretty good job, but I feel like I'm starting to fail that. 3 queens again for Fatty Tuna. How many sets has this guy flopped? And how many 3 pairs has B-pads flopped? Obviously, he missed this one. But he's got a lot of straight outs. Like, a lot of straight outs. The ace actually isn't one of them. 3, 4, 5 would have worked. And there's another ace to give him trips, but he's not quite connected with that board, so the queens full still work for Fatty Tuna. And no bet? Jeez. That's a very tight check back, especially considering the size of that pot. I feel like he had to bet something there. Fatty Tuna with a very nice looking hand. B-pads with a pretty nice looking hand. Uh-oh. Oh, B-pads better hit this. And he didn't hit it very hard. Fatty Tuna also didn't hit it hugely hard. But he will bet quarter pot. B-pads with a pair. And, oh, B-pads hits his perfect card on the turn. He has the straight. He does have to worry, of course, about a king-jack, but he's just going to go for the all-in, and he doubles up to 8.4 million. Telling Fatty Tuna, if you got the king-jack, I guess you win, but I'm going for it. And the swings just keep on going. Pair of aces double suited. You got to raise there. Fatty Tuna does not want to play that hand. Fatty Tuna likes that hand. B-pad should like that hand too. And once again, they're committing a million pre-flop. Nut flush draw for Fatty Tuna. Pair of 9s for B-pads. That's about it though. And that should be a fold to a pot-sized bet. Why did he call that? Why in the... Hold on, I gotta pause this. Why did he call that bet? What does he even have? He has a pair of 9s and an ace kicker. And the king-jack requires runner straight, which he is actually on the way for. He can't make a flush. The only way he can improve his hand is to pair up or get running queen 10. Why did he make that call? I say that, and yet Fatty Tuna does actually have the worst hand. Top pair, top kicker usually means nothing in Omaha, but I guess heads up, he's figuring that it's worth it to keep going, and technically he's right. Technically, he actually did have the best hand. But it's one of those situations where he has the best hand, but he's still behind. Maybe not now, though. And he goes all in right then and there. I gotta pause this. So Fatty Tuna is looking at that all in. Now, this has to be a bluff. B-pads, there's no way he can think he has the best hand here. He does, but again, there's just so many outs going on here. Fatty Tuna has the 8-5, so a straight could come with a 7. He also has 8-10, which would work for a 7 or a jack. So we can hit a 7 or a jack for a straight. Of course, any spade would be the nut flush, or the 8 gives him 3 8s. So 7, jack, spade, 8 are his outs. If he wants to gamble, he does, and the spade hits him. Fatty Tuna wins almost every single chip in play with a flush. One of his many, many outs does come through. They're probably just going to go all in blind here. Nope, not quite. B-Pads missed that, but he might as well just go for it. Fatty Tuna missed too. And B-Pads is going to be second-guessing that call he made in that last hand for a long, long time, because, I mean, technically he was right. He had the best hand. But when you're playing 5-card Omaha, top pair, top kicker is nothing. That was a pot-sized bet, and he had very, very little chance to improve his hand to anything that would make him comfortable. I just don't think that was the right play, even though technically it was, and that's going to be it. The Kings work for Fatty Tuna. B-Pads, certainly a valiant effort. Played very well, of course, to get here with the overwhelming chip lead at the final table. But I think that one hand was just a big mistake. He ended up committing all of his chips with just a pair of nines, and yeah, that's you just should never do that in Omaha. All right, so it was Kirby18 who actually technically bubbled the final table, and he went in for 8 bullets. This is a $630 buy-in, so even finishing in 6th place with a bounty, he still lost money. He lost a lot of money. None of these guys lost money, though. B-Pads was the only one at the final table that actually never had to rebuy. So congratulations to B-Pads. But Fatty Tuna, of course, with the overall win and the extra money from the bounty. Well done. And I will see you, obviously, in my next video. It might be Twitch related and it might be more poker. I don't know. But that's it for me today. I was just going to do this one today. So hope you enjoyed it. And I will be back.